Are you ready to live life to the full? Are you ready to rise up and live a life of honor? Are you ready to boldly step into a life of courage? This is the Manlihood ManCast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Manlihood ManCast. I'm your host, Josh Hatcher, and hanging out in the background right there, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel instead of listening to it on the podcast, you might see my sleeping golden retriever, Lincoln, hanging out in the chair back there just snoozing. He's happy. He's like 10, I think. Yeah, he's about 10 years old, and he's like done. He's checked out. He's like, I'm an old man, and I don't care. So, you might see him scratch or move around, but for the most part, he's just going to hang out there. But anyway, guys, and if you're listening to the podcast and you can't see him, hey, go check it out on the YouTube channel too, so you can give him a look. But anyway, guys, we're talking about today the concept of nobility. And I believe that nobility is a choice. We're going to talk about what that means right after this. Hey, man. I see you. I see your fire going out. I see your marriage barely holding on. I know you're broke, wore out, and at the end of your rope. I've been there. It sucks. Sucks the spark right out of you. Till all you have is a pile of wet wood. It feels like it's never gonna burn. I can't fix your problems. I can't make her love you again. I can't lose 50 pounds for you or fill your bank account. But I can remind you of who you are. I can share some of my fire. I can help you make a plan to get your life back on track. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's reignite our lives. There's a lot at stake. No one wants their marriage to end in divorce. No one wants to wallow in despair or to the dark places that follow. So let's do it. Let's reignite our lives. Let's reignite our passion, our marriage, our health, our career, our dreams, our mindsets. Get reignite today. Guys, welcome back to the Manlihood ManCast. I'm your host, Josh Hatcher, and I am so glad that you guys have joined us today. Listen, if you believe in helping men be better men, I want you to go to the manlihood.com/store, because you can get cool stuff there that will have value in your life. You can get some books and resources I've created. You can get some Manlihood t-shirts or hoodies, and you can get those things because you will want to have them and you will enjoy them. But what they also do is they help offset the expenses and the time that's put into manlyhood. So really what you're doing is you're helping other men be better men and getting something cool for yourself. How cool is that? So again, that's manlihood.com/store. Guys, I am really excited to talk to you about nobility. I think about nobility often. I picture in my head when you're watching the movie Braveheart, and you have the people who own land. The people who owned land in Scotland, they were considered nobles because they were landowners. What that meant was they had specific rights that were granted to them by the king. And so they were considered of an elevated class or an elevated stature. And that nobility gave them the right to do a lot of different things. In some cases, a noble and a landowner would have serfs, SERFs, that kind of lived along the edge of his kingdom, of his land, who worked the land for him. They were his employees, but really in a lot of cases they were like slaves. Sometimes those nobles would do, they would have what they called the right of prima noct. And so if two of his serfs were getting married, he would reserve the right to take the bride's virginity on her wedding night before the husband. Oh, how horrible is that? That's not what I think of when I think of nobility. Now, to counter that nobility, okay, to counter that concept, that I'm not going to call it nobility, to counter that concept of immorality that was rampant, the concept of chivalry started to arise, where a person who was a noble was considered noble then because of his character. The character started to develop and rise above this concept of a noble just taking what he wants. And so there was a responsibility of a person who had much to make sure that he was fair and just and honest with the people around him and that he protected the innocent. So the word noble originally was just referring to a person who had that stature because of birthright and their character was irrelevant, to then nobility started to mean of good character, not just social rank. And so for me, when I hear the word nobility, I want us to think about the concept of noble masculinity. This is a concept that you'll hear. I actually heard that phrase kind of in reference to combating the phrase toxic masculinity, and I heard it from Stephen Mansfield, who wrote Mansfield's Book of Manly Man, has the Great Man podcast. Check him out if you get a chance. It's really good stuff. But when he talks about nobility and he talks about noble manhood, noble masculinity, he's talking about where men take responsibility to do the right thing, where men protect the weaker, where men not only do the right thing for themselves and their family, but for their neighbor, where men are protectors, where men are people who have honor and integrity. That is what nobility is. And in the old days, that old nobility was really, it was birthright. You earned it by your parents dying, and then you got it. Or a king just granting it to you because he liked you. You were not a noble because of anything you did. You were not a noble because you earned it. But as we talk about this, I want you to know and understand that nobility is a choice. You can have nothing. You can be a beggar, homeless guy on the street, and you can be noble if you take responsibility for your actions, if you have integrity, if you choose to do the right thing, if you choose to look out for the weaker, if you choose to protect women and children. That is the choice to exercise nobility. And when we do that, men, we are going to be better than this concept of toxic masculinity. And I know people hear toxic masculinity. I hate the term because it has toxic is now associated with masculinity, and that's not what it's about. But the concept behind toxic masculinity, that sometimes men can be bullies, that sometimes men can think that they deserve something just because they have a penis, to the idea that a man can't show his emotions because he's weak, the idea that a man is just needs to ignore his mental health. Those things happen. Those are real problems. They are toxic, okay? They are not associated with masculinity. I think they're the opposite of masculinity, okay? I want to make that clear. I think that that is not what masculinity is about. We need to be careful before we associate those words. But nobility and noble masculinity is where we are making a conscious effort to take back what it means to be a man, what it means to be a real man. You know, I've heard people say really stupid stuff about a real man does such and such. Well, I'll tell you right now what a real man does. A real man is honest. A real man has integrity. A real man doesn't cheat on his wife. A real man protects and provides for his family. And if he can't, if he loses his job, he finds a way, and he doesn't quit until he makes sure that his family is provided for and that they are protected. And if something goes wrong, he makes sure to make it right. That is noble manhood. That is noble masculinity. That is nobility, and it is the nobility that we need to strive for. Now, in case anybody's listening and they get their panties in a wad and they say, well, aren't those characteristics also true of femininity? Shouldn't women be those things? Yeah, sure. But I'm not talking to women right now. There may be women listening, but I'm not talking to you. Yes, you should be women of character. Yes, you should be women of honor. Yes, you should take care of your family. Yes, all of those things, okay? But I'm talking to men because across the board, culturally, men are starting to reject it. They're starting to reject their role as the protector, the provider, the honest person, the person with integrity, the person who does the right thing, the person who makes a vow and keeps it, the person who has hard work in his blood. We're starting to abandon that culturally, and we have to take it back. So when I think about Braveheart, and I think about this concept of the nobles in Braveheart, they started out not wanting to fight against the king, not wanting to disagree with the king because they would lose everything. But William Wallace had nothing to lose, and then the only thing he did have was this secret wife, and he lost her. So he had nothing to lose. But he fought with nobility because he wanted to free his people. He could have just stopped and backed out, but he said no. And then he moved them to fight too. After his death, they fought even harder. that nobility wanted to free the Scottish people after they recognized the nobility in someone who had no title and who had no land. Guys, I just want you to see and to know and to understand that nobility is a choice that we make. It is not something that we are born with. It is not something that is bestowed upon us. It is not something we even really earn. It's something we choose to do. It's a way that we choose to live. So I just want to encourage you guys, please, as you are facing the decisions you have to make in your life, I want you to ask yourself, is this a noble thing to do? Is this the right thing to do? Is this a thing of integrity? And then weigh that according to your principles, your vision, your values, the things that you care about. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. That's what makes you noble. Anyway, guys, I love you. I care about you. And I look forward to hearing from you next week. Please hop on the Manlihood Man Cave. Weigh in. Let's talk about this. What does it mean to be noble for you? I would love to hear your opinions. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.
If you want to be a better man, check out our website, manlihood.com, for blogs, videos, and more from our Manlihood team. You can also join our private Facebook group, Manlihood ManCave, where you can meet up with a band of brothers who will challenge you and help you on your journey of manhood. Be sure to check out all our resources at manlihood.com/store. This episode is produced by Thatcher Media for manlihood.com. Our manly theme music is from Austin Sterling and also from Mark Cruz. Sure to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes, YouTube, or whatever you're listening to. Tune in again for more of the Manlihood ManCast.